in this month's Bloc Talk webinar. So first I want to say thank you everybody for joining us on a Monday. Typically we have our Bloc Talk sessions on Tuesdays, and this month is a little bit different, of course, with the holidays and everything, but we will go ahead and get right into it, and we have a little bit different setup that we've started this grant cycle year. And what we're actually doing is we are kind of looking at different cities around the state of Texas, and we are kind of identifying and spotlighting best practices around housing. And so we have a treat for you guys brought to you from Dallas today. So let's get right into it. And the first thing I want to say is, you know me, I need to have a monthly meme. So this one is, actually it says the first rule, actually the first rule for Black Friday is there are no rules. So as you can tell, just kind of a funny little picture for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the holidays last week and were able to possibly get out and do some shopping and such on Friday, or maybe you just decide to stay home. However, whichever is the best, I think probably just staying home and avoiding those crowds. But hopefully you had a good time, and remember today is Cyber Monday, so you'll need to get out there and follow up on all the sales that are happening. And then for our monthly agenda, so really we don't have any announcements at this time. We are working on what our schedule is going to be this year for our monthly webinar sessions. So as you know, today it is Dallas. Next month we're possibly looking at bringing you a program from El Paso. But really the intention here is to look at all the different communities around the state and really focus on some of the best practices around housing, like I said. So we'll do that presentation today, and then we'll get into some question and answers, or we'll provide the answers. You guys will provide the questions, and we will follow up with those live. That way you can ask any questions that you have. And so remember, as we are going through the webinar and going through the presentation, to click on your toolbox over to your right under questions, and you can put in any questions that you have. So those questions can be around, of course, the webinar that we're going to be, or the presentation that we're going to be looking at today from Dallas, or if you're having issues with maybe sound or any other thing specifically with the webinar, please, you can put those underneath the questions as well. So just to let you guys know and remind you that I am going to keep all of your mics muted, because if I do not, then we'll have everybody talking at one time and it'll be crazy. So the only people that will not be muted will be Rebecca and Keith, who will be our presenters for the day. And then reminder again to look underneath the question tab under the webinar or the Citrix toolkit, so you can put any questions in. And then by the end of the webinar, we'll do our best to answer any questions that you have. And then also, just so you know, if you want to tell coworkers or if you have to kind of leave early, we are currently recording this webinar. And then probably within the next few days, we will post that to our YouTube link so that you can actually see the whole process of the webinar, all the slides and such. As well as today, you will be provided handouts of the PowerPoint presentation that Keith will be going over. A couple more things. So remember that this is one of our monthly Bloc Talks. This is a webinar that's provided by Texas Homeless Network to provide your community with the opportunity to learn how to more effectively serve your homeless population through exploring successful practices in housing in Texas cities. And so really, as I mentioned, we're looking all around the state at best practices, and we will be spotlighting different areas. It doesn't have to be just the major metropolitan areas. It can be anywhere. So if you know of a best practice that's going on around housing and you would like to talk about that, if that's possibly in your community, then feel free to shoot me an email. My email address will be up at the end of the PowerPoint today. So typically these sessions are about a 20-minute presentation followed by a 15-minute question and answer session. And just so you guys know a little bit more about Texas Homeless Network, we are a nonprofit membership-based organization. You can visit us online at THN.org. And what we do is we work with communities around Texas through education, resources, and advocacy. I don't have any upcoming trainings really to speak of because we are entering into the holiday season. We will be doing another one of these block talks next month. We'll be looking at towards the end of the month, and I will be looking to go back to a Tuesday, possibly around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We also will be starting up and continuing our SOAR webinar series. So we are not recording those, but if you'd like to join us for one of those webinar series, just kind of watch your email inbox, or you can email me afterwards after this presentation, and you can I can add you to the list actually. Or you can actually, as it says there, go to our website and you can sign up to get free updates around online trainings and webinars that will be going on. However, I will say that we are looking to change kind of who is providing our services around sending out the invitations, and so this link might change, and hopefully we won't lose any of your information. But if you don't receive anything probably within the next, if you go here and sign up and you don't receive anything within the next week, then feel free to shoot me an email and let me know that you want to sign up. A little bit more information. Of course, Texas Homeless Network is located in Austin, Texas. You can send any email to us at training@thn.org. Also, you can ask about any being a member or your agency being a member if you go to the thn.org/membership. And you can go there and ask to be a member, and you get all kinds of free cool stuff. So this month is kind of the first of this series of what I'm calling kind of the Texas Spotlight. And we've asked for MDHA, and specifically Rebecca Cox, to bring on and talk about one of the agencies that is happening in in Dallas, and so that they can present and talk a little bit about the housing that they are either providing now or will be providing in the future. So Rebecca, I'm going to unmute you. You are now unmuted.
Mm-hmm.
And Keith, I'm going to unmute you as well.
All right.
Go ahead, Rebecca, and I'm going to turn over screen control to Keith.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, well, so City Square does a lot. They do a lot from food assistance to housing, and so the cottages is really just one of their many programs that we wanted to spotlight today. And I'm going to let Keith talk the bulk of it, but I just wanted to say a little bit about it and why we selected them. As you most likely know, chronically homeless persons are a small percentage of the homeless population, but a large percentage of the service cost to the system. And cottages are unique in that they're not just targeting chronically homeless, but they're targeting specifically those that have shown the largest expense to our Dallas area system. That's including like jail service, in and out of the emergency room, the hospital system, and they're targeting that population to house in a really unique way that's very community focused, and so that they can have that wraparound services for those high utilizers of our system. So Keith is the executive director there. I think he's been there since 2014, since this project started, and he's going to talk more about cottages at Hickory Crossing.
Hello, everybody. Chris, if you would help me, I don't have the PowerPoint up, so before I get too far along.
Yeah, you want me to pull it up on my end?
Yes, if you would.
Okay. Yeah, hold on one second. Let me move it back. All right, and all right, can
Perfect.
You see it there?
All right. Perfect. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you, Rebecca. I've actually been involved with this project since its inception, which, believe it or not, started 9 years ago. Prior to assuming the role of the executive director of the cottages at Hickory Crossing, I was the chief operations officer for City Square since 2003. So this has been an incredible journey to actually get to this point. It's actually something that would only be happening if because of everybody who has come together in a collaboration. This is not a single agency really doing this. This is something that has taken a lot of time and a lot of involvement from community partners to make happen. All right. So, Chris, how do I advance?
I'll advance it for you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Just let me know when to go to the next slide.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so this project started essentially as a result of our efforts to try to help the individuals who were evacuating from Hurricane Katrina and how they were all coming to Dallas. And the thought was, if we're not going to be able to provide anything in a temporary manner, what if, because we would expect that a lot of people were going to stay, we needed to explore ways in which we could do affordable types of housing for the individuals coming over. So the initial thought was maybe if we did the small, tiny house model and take advantage of the recent legislation that stated that all military installations that were shut down should be converted into affordable housing, that maybe that type of model would work. Well, the timing wasn't right, and there was a whole lot of issues going on at the time related to funding for those types of projects. So that was the beginning of the thought process of how are we going to develop affordable housing for low-income homeless individuals. So a partnership began. Basically, the project is being put together by 5 different agencies working together to pull this off. So MetroCare Services is providing the behavioral health services on site. Central Dallas Community Development Corporation is the owner and developer of the project. They are the ones who are going to be the facility management company. City Square is providing the case management of the services on site, along with serving as a public relations lead and a variety of other types of support services. UT Southwestern is doing the program evaluation. They're going to be doing a 3-year study of the project to prove up that the work that we're doing is, first off, making a difference and an impact in the lives of the people living there, and secondly, is making a significant reduction in costs to the county of Dallas as it relates to access to county services. The supporting partners, the leader in funding this, is the W.W. Cruz Jr. Foundation. And it's key to point out that 75% of the funds used for this project to construct it and then operate it for the first 3 years, 75% of that has come from the private sector, from foundations and individual families and churches who have made donations. The project architect is BC Workshop, known for doing a lot of unique and cutting-edge affordable housing projects around the state. And project management is Design Construction Solutions. Project construction is Capstone Classic. So there's a lot of different people from different backgrounds that have come together to do something that's a little bit different to address the needs of the individuals living on the streets in Dallas. So next slide, please. Okay, so who is going to live at this cottage project? Well, first off, this is basically a standalone community that is going to be part of the greater part of the city of Dallas. There's going to be 50 units of single occupancy housing. Each cottage is 400 square feet. And the people living there are going to be Dallas County homeless individuals who are involved with criminal backgrounds and access to mental health diagnoses, and as a result of their history of homelessness, have basically been disqualified from any other kind of housing project in the Dallas area. This is going to be evidence-based service design. We're going to be having research done from various universities, primarily with UT Southwestern, doing the clinical evaluations. And also University of Texas at Dallas is going to be looking at impact for the greater city. Next slide. So the staffing is going to be pretty robust, and I think this is what really is going to make this an exciting and unique project. So not only do we have the 50 individual cottages that the individuals will be living in, but on-site staff that will be there, right there on the same property. There's my position as the executive director, the concierge 24/7, and the concierge is going to be a position that is going to encompass security, maintaining the culture of the community, providing assistance, basically the customer service expert. And then we have a porter who will do maintenance, housekeeping type responsibilities, janitorial work. And then we have 2 social work case managers, an activities coordinator who's going to ensure that we have activities 7 days a week to draw people out of their cottages. Community health registered nurse provided by City Square and Baylor Community Health Services, who's going to take care of all the different kinds of illnesses that typically have homeless individuals going to an emergency room. So we'll have the community health nurse right there on site who's going to provide the medical care and then get them connected with a physician if there is a need. And fortunately, the community health clinic operated by City Square is less than a mile from the location of the cottages. There will be a psychiatrist providing hours on site by MetroCare. And there's a psychiatric registered nurse provided by MetroCare who's going to be there for medication management. We'll have 2 qualified mental health providers who will be doing different kinds of therapeutic interventions. And then we have 2 psychiatric case managers who's going to be working with the individuals on site. And then, of course, we're going to have after-hours on-call services for psychiatric needs that will then be able to provide immediate response if needed. Next slide, please. So the candidates are being selected through a pool that has been put together by the Dallas County Jail Diversion Program. So they are finding individuals who have been arrested numerous times for various different kinds of nuisance violations like trespassing, panhandling, vagrancy, public intoxication, the types of nuisance violations that cause the city to have to respond with 911 calls, bookends, doing a variety of different things that just adds up financially. In addition, we've received lists of people who've identified themselves as being homeless and are patients at psychiatric emergency rooms and are part of Value Options North Star services. They are one of our key partners that's helped us basically do a comprehensive list that we can then compare to people who are part of the jail diversion program, have a history of homelessness, have a mental health diagnosis that's an Axis 1, and then are frequent users of the county resources. This is allowing us to see who crosses over and is in all 3 areas, because everybody living at the cottages is going to have all 3 of those criteria. 1 being a history of homelessness, 2, an Axis 1 mental health diagnosis of major depressive disorder, schizophrenia, schizoaffective, bipolar, not exclusively Axis 2 personality disorders. So we're going to be very specific that Axis 1 must be diagnosis. If they by chance have Axis 2 also, that's okay, but they can't be no Axis 1 and only Axis 2. And then we're also going to be looking at the high costs to the county, as I mentioned. Now, to prioritize the people that we identify, since there is a pool of 300 names that we are actively screening, we're doing the vulnerability index, the VI-SPIDAT. And that is going to help us identify basically an ordering of who is the most vulnerable of this vulnerable population. So those will be the individuals who will be invited first of the 50 to live at the cottages. Next slide. So here it gives you a Venn diagram basically showing you how those 3 key areas overlap and how we developed our candidate pool. Currently, right now, we are screening individuals. We have a community case manager who is literally going out to the streets, underneath the bridges, to the tent city, to the jail, and meeting people there and interviewing them all and doing the initial screening process. So how that works is that they are doing the initial screening. They are then having a criminal background check done by the Dallas County Jail Diversion Program, who is checking for any kind of trending that would not make them a good neighbor to live in the cottages. We then have MetroCare to verify the Axis 1 diagnosis. We have Baylor Community Health Services then checking out the medical, and then we are then reviewing all their activities for daily living abilities, because people will be having to live independently with minimal assistance. Next slide. So the location of it. It's on just shy of 3 acres south of Interstate 30, right across the highway from Deep Ellum, which is a very historic arts and music and restaurant area, which is adjacent to actual downtown Dallas. The cottages themselves, if you look on the diagram on the left, is that little wedge, that triangle that is right there where I-30 and I-45 meet. So next slide. And this is a rendering of what it's going to look like. 50 freestanding cottages, almost like a baseball diamond shape there, with the center area for activities ranging from yoga to wiffle ball tournaments and all kinds of different activities. The trees are going to be lining the green space in the center. To the left, there's a community garden. And to the right, that long shed-looking roof, that is a services building where we have the laundromat, the concierge office, different meeting rooms, the library, the computer lab, the clubhouse that has media, and then several meeting rooms, one of which is going to be set aside specifically for 12-step meetings. Next slide. And so each of the cottages are Platinum LEED certified. They are steel exteriors with the exception of cedar front porches and fronts to soften it. Each is in clusters of about 6 to 8 cottages, and in the center of each cluster of cottages, this has since changed. It's going to be a green strip with a picnic table and a charcoal grill so people can socialize with their cluster neighbors. We're calling these little clusters neighborhoods within the village of the cottages. Next slide. And this gives you a view of the cottages and the services building in the back of the picture, looking out onto the green. And you can see that there's going to be walkways throughout. It has since changed. It's not going to be brick anymore, but instead it's going to be decomposed granite walkways. Okay, next slide. And each cottage is going to be identical on the inside, each with a living room, a bedroom, a bathroom, and a kitchen, and it's going to be furnished. And there's 3 different roof lines, though, to provide a little bit of a breakup to soften the feel, to make it not look so cookie cutter. And there are 5 ADA cottages that will have ramps. Next slide. This gives you an idea of how the services building, which we're calling the lodge, is going to be set up, with the case management offices, the psychiatrist, the nurse's exam room, the different meeting rooms, and then the laundry room on the left. Okay, next slide. And this is an aerial view from August. We've made a lot of progress since this, but to be very honest, the weather has knocked the wind out of our sails a bit. We have lost literally over 120 workdays since the project began because of the rain that we've experienced for the last 13 months. So our goal now is to have all the construction 100% completed in February, so we can start moving people in late February, early March. Next slide. So this gives you an idea of what the project has cost. year one column there shows what the startup expenses is, and for us to get everything built, and then the initial year of program operations. And then you'll see over in the last column, over 3 years, this is what we project that the overall project will cost for the first 3 years of operation, including the construction. And that's just shy of 10 million when it's all said and done. Okay, next slide. All right, so there's some significant things, and you'll notice here that this is 2011 data. I just have not loaded up the most recent HUD information. This gives you a bit of an idea of the rationale that was being used for developing this project. So it's safe to say that there's around 6,000 homeless people in the Dallas County area. And there's about 2,000 of those are what we would call chronically homeless. And you can see that Dallas County incurs approximately $40,000 in expenses per individual per year who's living out on the streets. You can see that there are 1.2 million non-emergency room visits to Dallas County hospitals in 2011. And on a daily basis, there's about 987 people in Dallas County prisons who identify themselves as being homeless. And there are a lot of different expenses that just add up. Every time that an ambulance is called out, it's just it's $650 just for the ambulance to show up. That's not including being taken to the hospital and then being treated from there. Next slide. So we had our first success story as it relates to the cottages, and it happens to be related to somebody who was working on site. So Chris, if you would, just click on that NBC5 news story link, and it should open up a news story. A little short video. And while we're waiting on that, you'll see that in the center there's a gentleman named Markeith Gay, and he is actually a homeless individual who was living under the I-45 overpass in the tent city, who decided that he needed to get back into the workforce after having been on the streets off and on for over 20 years. So he started working at the construction site with Capstone Construction, and is now actually living in the City Square City Walk building, which is owned and operated by the Central Dallas Community Development Corporation, which is a mixed-use affordable housing project.
Let me see if I can get this to play. Yeah. Can you guys see the screen?
Right now, I see the PowerPoint.
Yeah, let me see.
So if you double-click on the news story, it might take you straight to it. There you go. Yeah, so unfortunately, we have to go through 15 seconds of a advertisement before the story actually starts.
Let me make sure my volume's up. Can you guys hear that?
No.
Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Mm-hmm. Click to learn more. Well, let me put up my headphone next to the speakers. Maybe that'll work. Hold on a second. I don't think it's going to work. I'm hitting something on this side.
Okay.
Sorry about that. It says it's
no problem. Well, then we'll have to just bypass that and go to the next slide.
Okay.
But essentially, the story is this is a gentleman who's been living on the streets, needed an opportunity to get back into the workforce. He showed up every single day for 6 months working on the construction site, and because of his persistence in showing up on time and really working really hard, we were able to help him get his Dallas Housing Authority voucher, and got him a permanent place to live. So he has been an incredible asset to the project, and if he stays on a straight and narrow and everything works out well, he's going to end up being the porter for the cottages as a full-time employee. So we can go to the next slide. All right, so we have lots of different volunteer activities that we're recruiting for. I told you that we have a full-time activities coordinator as part of the staff, and so we're going to ensure that we have a wide range of activities going on 7 days a week so that people won't just be a recluse in their cottage, rather they will come out and participate in activities. So we're going to encourage that as best we can. It's going to be social activities, personal enrichment activities, coping activities. We know full well that there's going to be an adjustment period whenever people start moving in March. And so our clinical staff, along with our activities coordinator, are working on developing activities and programs to help people make the adjustments to going from being out on the street to now living within 4 walls. And we're fully aware of the studies that show that sometimes there are self-doubt and coping and self-sabotaging behaviors that happen. People pulling their mattress out of their new apartment or cottage and putting it outside and sleeping on that because they're getting claustrophobic. So we're working really hard to put together a program that is going to help out as best as possible for the adjustment period. Next page. And one of the really cool and exciting things is that even though the cottages are going to be furnished with furniture as provided by the actual construction and development, we didn't have the housewares. So we set up a college registry on Target, and I would say 80% of our houseware items have been purchased off that in order to give people linens and pillows and pots and pans for their kitchen. And it's been an amazing response. We're now in the last 20% of the things we're trying to get just to make these cottages feel like a home. And next slide. That's the presentation there. I'm sure there are lots of questions, a lot of details I did not go over, so I will turn it over to Chris at this point to see what kind of things I can elaborate on.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And I'm going to go ahead and leave you unmuted at this time. So just a reminder to type in your questions if you have a question so that we can ask those to Keith directly while I switch over the slideshow. All right, don't be shy. Ask your questions. This is your time.
While we're waiting, Chris, a few things I'm thinking of. It is important to point out that this is housing first. The people living in the cottages will have the opportunity to live there for the rest of their lives as long as they are a good neighbor. This is not a program by which people are going to be graduating. We truly are going after the most vulnerable of the vulnerable people living out on the streets. So the likelihood of them being able to graduate a program is highly unlikely. The individuals we'll be serving are the ones that truly have difficulty keeping anything stable because of their mental health issues or because they get eliminated from programs because of their criminal background.
Yeah, it sounds like a very needed program. We do have one question so far, and it's from, it was more of a question about who are the big collaborators with the project, and I know you had a screenshot of some of those. Can you just talk about a couple of those real quick, or maybe who is your biggest collaborator?
The biggest players in this really are Metro Care for the psychiatric services, City Square for the social work case management, and a lot of other administrative support functions, Central Dallas Community Development Corporation as the builder, developer, and then facility management and leasing people for the project, and then Dallas County Jail Diversion Program. Those are the 4 key collaborators with the program operation. And then UT Southwestern really is going to help us out a lot by doing a 3-year program evaluation to really show how we're making a difference in not only the lives of the people who are living there because of improvement in their own health and safety, but also how we're going to be able to reduce the expenses that they cause for Dallas County. As I said earlier, on an average, an individual living on streets accesses and utilizes $40,000 worth of services a year. We believe through a pilot program that we actually did 4 years ago that we can reduce it to less than $13,000 a year to access community and county resources.
Awesome. Thank you. And then another question we have is, can you talk a little bit about the cost to the tenant, if any, and then any kind of job training that it will be available?
Absolutely. So each individual living in a cottage is going to be a resident of a Dallas Housing Authority project-based voucher. So as a result, they are going to have a voucher that stipulates that they have to provide 30% of whatever their income is, whether that be from disability, Social Security, retirement, veteran benefits, or maybe they have an odd job career of collecting cans and selling and turning them in recycling centers. They will then provide 30% of whatever their income is. So these are individuals who, in all likelihood, will probably not be capable of gaining full-time employment and graduating from a program. However, they have full access across the street to the City Square Opportunity Center, which has a food pantry, the Texas Workforce Commission, literacy programming, AmeriCorps, and a variety of other kinds of vocational training programs that they are all going to be available to. We don't expect that anybody would be able to get a full-time job out of this 50 people because of who we are specifically targeting. However, we are going to provide those resources if it is something they so desire. We are, on the other hand, going to be doing a lot of activities by which they can be trained to be very solid volunteers, so they can go to other community organizations and do regular volunteer hours.
Awesome. And then following up on that, specifically this program will help 50 homeless individuals. How do you guys see the program growing, or will it grow, or will it stay right at that number?
We believe that that is the ideal number of 50. By the case management structure we've done, that would then make it 25 per social work case manager caseload, which is where you really want to stay at. This particular project is something we want to replicate, not expand. So our hope is that by proving up that this is a model that really does work, makes an impact, that we then have the opportunity to replicate it anywhere in the country. And to be very honest and very frank, we want to be able to provide a playbook to anybody else who wants to do it too, because we see that this is one of the types of homeless outreach methods that works. So there needs to be permanent supportive housing. There needs to be affordable housing. There needs to be housing first. All three are needed in order to serve the population that's out there. So anybody who's wanting to do housing first, we want to provide the playbook and say, here's the way to do it, and that will save you a lot of costs in the long run.
Great, that's great. And we also had another question I think you kind of indirectly answered, which was asking if you guys are going to be working with other counties. So knowing that your population is limited, that you're going to be receiving those 50 clients from Dallas County, but also that you're willing to kind of put this model out to other areas that don't have housing readily available. That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't have the money and the resources at the time right now to go and do this again somewhere else until we have this really firmly established and operating. However, if there's anybody out there who wants to know how we did it, please reach out to me. I'm happy to tell you everything I can, because we would love to see other people replicate this model.
That's great. We've had a couple of questions asking for you to come out and talk to a couple of other coalitions and such. So I will make sure that I get everybody the get everybody's Keith's information when I send out a follow-up email, so that you guys will have his email address, as well as Rebecca's email address, so that if you have any questions, we should be able to field some of those questions and hopefully help spread this good practice throughout the state. That's why we're wanting to do these webinars, to get this information out. One other question, Keith, is so this program is for singles. Do we have any programs, or do you guys have any programs like that for families, or go ahead.
We do not, because our philosophy has always been we will do something that nobody else is doing. We will support others who are doing something already and are doing it well. So when families come, we always make referrals to our partner agencies that are already working with families. So, for example, the Salvation Army already does a fantastic program for homeless families. So rather than dip into the pool of resources they access for serving families, we rather support and be a partner to them.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. That's really about it as far as questions so far. I'll just restate that I'm going to pass on Keith's information. We have more emails about wanting to talk with you specifically, Keith. So I'll make sure I'll pass on that information, the email addresses, and then include any other contact information we have. And that seems to be about all the questions for this time. Thank you so much for being on the line with us today and talking about this program. Looks like a really great program, and knowing that you are building that now and that is going to be housing individuals is really incredible, and especially with us really trying to house that chronic homeless population. So we're very excited about that. I know here at THN, and you guys, I know MDHA is excited about that as well. So that is wonderful. Thank you so much for being on the line with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and finish this out, and I will go ahead and mute you. But thank you for being here.
My absolute pleasure. It's been an honor to be part of this.
Awesome. All right. So it is it's about 2:45. So I just want to make sure that I'll make sure that I send out the information, Keith's contact information, as well as any other contact information with an email that'll go out saying that we have uploaded this video to our YouTube channel, so that you can view it there again if you'd like, or you can refer any coworkers or such over to it. So you will get all that in one email that'll come out probably within the next couple of days, if not the end of the week. And so thanks again for Keith for being here. Next month, sorry guys, I'm making sure. All right, so next month, having a little bit of a technical issue. Next month we will be, the idea, as I mentioned before, is that we'll be going from city to city and kind of talking about housing practices that are happening around the state. So right now I'm talking to individuals out at El Paso so that we can get some more information from them and see if they would like to be on the horn for next month and to talk with us on our webinar. If not El Paso, we will find some other community, I promise you that, and we'll be looking at the best practices around housing that are happening around the state. So one last thing, for some reason let me make sure this is all fixed, guys. Hold on. All right. So all right. So I'm sorry you guys are not looking here. I'll throw this up here. There. So at least you can see that last slide. So what we are doing is we will continue to do this style of presentation every month, looking at different areas. And I want to know more about where you're at and some of the housing options in your area. So when I close out this webinar here in a couple of minutes, there will be an evaluation that pops up. If you could please take that evaluation and give us some feedback about today's topic, plus future topics, that would be great. We do pull those up every week or after the webinar, so we can kind of look at where we want to go next. So please fill that out on your evaluation. Give us some more hints what we can do to help you and make your job easier. My information is up on the slideshow right now. So there's my direct contact line as well as my email address. So be looking for that email that will go out the next couple of days once we get this uploaded. And again, I want to say thanks to Rebecca at MDHA and to Keith for talking about the cottages, and we look forward to talking to all of you guys next week. So we will see you then. Y'all have a great weekend, and we'll see you right before Christmas.